now that you have got your job drawn up from home, saved to a flash drive, and brought it into the machine to cut it out, when you plug it into the computer, this screen is most likely going to be what's pulled up. This is our VMD screen. And to minimize this, to pull up our CAD software so that we can convert it to GM, you just would swipe from the top left downward where it says Lincoln Electric, and that will minimize the screen for you. Once you do that, we'll click over here on our Torchmate CAD software. It brings this screen up just like on yours at home. We're going to then open our job that we created at home. We'll go File, Open. I've got mine uploaded in here, and pay attention right here, the file type. Because this is the master software, it can do a handful of different types of files, and we are going to change it from CAD link drawing to educational drawing. A lot of kids get frustrated because when they're looking or searching for their job, they freak out and think that, oh, it didn't save correctly, but really they're just looking for the wrong file type. Now, I'm just going to type in the first few letters of that job we created. I'm going to click the edu file, not the BAK, the backup file, and hit Open. Now we have our job that we created at home pulled up on the machine's CAD software. It's ready to be converted into a GM file. The only difference between this computer and this CAD software and the software you downloaded at home on your computer is that you can convert this into a GM file. Once you've got your job pulled up and ready to go, the only difference between your software and this computer software is that it can convert your job into a GM file. If you click Machine and scroll down, this very first button that says Output, this is all that's missing from your software versus this master version. So we can do everything that this master can on the educational side. The only difference being we can't convert it to a GM file, create the G code for it. Now we need to click and highlight this, double check that it's going to be in the bottom left, because let's say I have this over the line here, right? I've got the bottom of the pumpkin over the line. Now if I go to Machine and Output with it hanging over the line, it's going to say no object to cut. It can't recognize or find the job because it's hanging off of this template, this material blank. So we're going to click and drag so we see it snap with the purple lines. Let go, and we'll come up to Machine, Output, and now you can see your job is there. All right, when you come out, always double check this screen after you hit Output and make sure that all of your lines, all your toolpaths have been brought over to this screen. Otherwise, it's not going to create the G code for your job, and when it cuts it out, it's going to be missing, where it won't actually cut. Most of the time, what's missing is the outside edge. If you didn't connect your image all together and you have just the edge hanging off, then it'll create the job for this Autumn Skies Pumpkin Pies and not the outside edge. So always double check this screen, make sure that your job is there. We're going to hit Cut Now. It's up here at the top middle-ish portion. It's next to the cut preview. We're gonna hit Cut Now. That's gonna bring up another window, and you're saving this as a GM file. Always make sure that we're saving it as a GM file. And second, let's double check and make sure that it's being saved to your flash drive, not someone else's flash drive or this computer's flash drive or desktop or wherever you may accidentally save it. So once I've selected my flash drive and I've got my name already in there for what this job's called, I'm going to come over and hit Save. it has now created a GM file, a G-code file for this job we drew up. After you've done that, you're going to come down here to the bottom of your screen and click the VMD window. It's going to bring this window back up for you. You can see we've got a different job loaded in this, and we need to bring your job to this machine so that it's ready to cut it. We're going to hit select job here at the top, and we're going to browse this computer. And right now it's looking in CNC jobs on my desktop of this computer. We're going to hit this PC, scroll down, find my flash drive, and we're going to search through here for the job we just created. And we're going to select the one that says GM at the end. We're not going to be able to pull up any other type of job unless it's a GM file. Once you've selected that, we're going to hit open. Once you've selected your job and hit open, you're going to see it pop up in this window. If it doesn't automatically pop up in this window, you're going to hit zoom to job, and that'll show you your project ready in this window to cut. Now I am going to show you how to set program 0. Alright, now we're ready to find where we're going to actually cut this out. Not every time you come up to this machine are you going to have a brand new piece of metal to pick a spot right, you know, perfect in the bottom left. Chances are there's going to be a whole bunch of different random things, random items cut out of any in particular sheet metal at any given time. So you need to know how to set program 0 somewhere on this sheet of metal where you're going to be cutting it out, wherever your job is going to fit. Whether it be in this section or one larger area, that's where we're going to try to fit this one. But you need to know how to set program 0. To do that, we're going to mess with these areas here. This is our y-axis. You can see when I push that forward and back, that moves our machine on its y-axis forward and backward. Now if I come here and I hit the x-axis, plus or minus, then it's going to move left and right. You can see it moving on its x-axis. Now you can also hit 2 arrows at the same time, and that will move this together diagonally, whatever way we need to move it. So we are going to bring this over to that area I told you about. Once we have found an area we're going to try to see if this will fit in, we are going to maneuver the turret to where the torch is over that area, and the torch is the one on the left. We're now going to lower the z-axis. This is our torch, and we're going to bring that down as close to that plate as we can. That way we actually can see or have a reference point as to where we're setting program 0 on this. The reason we draw all of our jobs and we put them in the bottom left is because when setting program 0, our jobs move or are based off of the bottom left. So if I set program 0 there, and you do that right here underneath your job, you're going to see a couple different items that you can hit. We're going to hit set program 0. You'll notice that your job disappears because it's moved up wherever we're pointing on this machine, and then we can hit zoom to job. Now what you can't really see too well in this is these thicker white lines. That's our 0 down here in the bottom left. So the reason we design everything and we put it in the bottom left is because that's where the machine is moving from to do and cut all of your job tool paths. So it's the bottom left. The reason that is important is when you're trying to line this up, you need to realize that from 0, from home, wherever you set program home, it's going to be moving out that way. After you've set program 0, what I like to do is move the torch forward while watching, you can see that horizontal line moving. So I'm up and down, and I'm gonna come to the furthest left line and check on the machine and make sure I'm not running into a previously cut job. Since I can see we're free and clear right there, I'm gonna then maneuver this over to the top of this pumpkin. And again, check the sheet metal, make sure I'm not running into another job. I'm good there. Now I'm gonna maneuver this over to the right-hand side, the furthest right, and double check. We're good to go, we're free there. And last, we're gonna come down to the bottom and run it down. This is the furthest, the lowest point on the y-axis, and we are not running off the plate anywhere, so we're good to go. We're gonna hit go to program 0, not set program 0. Once we've hit go to program 0, all right, we've set program 0. We double checked that we weren't running off the sheet anywhere on here, and we've gone back to program 0. We're now ready to cut this job. In another video, I'll have detailed instructions on how to adjust all of these cut parameters. We are not going to go over that in this video just for the sake of time, but we are going to cut this out so you can see what it looks like. I'll have a portion of this in real time so you can get a gauge on how fast it is cutting, and the rest I will speed up. Now when you're ready, you're just going to come over here and click run job. Now what you can do, and if you're nervous and you want to make sure that you've sequenced this correctly, let's say you're not sure whether or not you have it designed where the outside line is going to cut last like we want it to, what you can do is switch this active run to dry run, hit run job, and it's going to run through this job as if it were actually cutting. It's just not going to actually make a cut. So going through and doing these lines. Once you've realized you've either sequenced it correctly or you think it's in working order, then we can go ahead and hit stop. Then we need to send it to program 0. And you can see on the screen our red lines, and now we have some white lines. What that means is that is tracing where this machine is in the job. We have to reset this before we switch this back to active run. Or once we've hit active run, we need to hit reset. Once we hit reset, you can see that it changes the lines back to red, and we're good to go. So we've gone back to program 0. We've double checked with a dry run. Now we can hit run job. When we are running a job, what I want you to keep in mind is the drop-offs, the cutouts, whatever you want to call them, the pieces that are going to be falling through, like autumn, skies, pumpkin pies, those are going to fall through sometimes, and you need to keep an eye on those. If you don't, they can be stuck up, and the torch, when it's moving around and to do all its different cuts, it can run into one of those cut pieces and crash. So we're always going to be aware of if we have a dropout or a cutoff piece sticking up, we need to be aware of that and catch it. So you've got to stay here and babysit this job while it's cutting. You can't just hit run job and walk away. Once you hit run job, let's say you do have to stop it in case something's crashed and it's knocked the torch off the turret, you'll just come in and hit stop. Now we're ready to go. We're going to hit run job. It's going to come over and start the arc. All right, it just finished cutting that out. And what we need to do is move this turret out of the way so we can go in and grab our cut piece of metal. Now, the nice thing with having this on a water table, a water bed, is that this is ready to go. It's cooled down and you can already, right after cutting it, handle this. Now we're gonna go through and I'll show you how to clean it up and prep it to either be painted or just be hung on the wall. Once you've pulled your sign out of the cutting table, you can bring it over to our sink or even our quench tank and give it a good bath to kind of wash off this extra grime or grease. We usually have some Scotch-Brite pads here so that you can use these to clean off the surface of this metal. Just take mainly the front side. Now I like to leave these type of signs raw iron. That's not always the case. Sometimes I'll paint them, but regardless, it's the same cleaning process you want to go through to do either. All right, once we've got that surface nice and clean, give it a good rinse. We can hit this side, but be aware of all of the dross, which is the material left behind by the plasma torch. It's the burnt high carbon steel. Just get a little bit of what you can on that side. Rinse it. Now if you have a lot of metal pieces that come off of this, don't leave them in the sink. Please empty them into the scrap bin. Now once we've got this cleaned up, we'll take our paper towels, or you can go over to the air hose and dry this off. I'm going to get the bulk of the moisture off with the paper towel and then the rest with the air gun. All right, once you got it dried up, you're ready for the next step. Once you've got it dried off, you're ready for the next step, which is using a angle grinder, our handheld grinders, to take the excess dross off of the back of this and to clean up any kind of grime or rust we've got left on it. Now, to do this, and with any sheet metal or majority of any of your metal projects you're going to be grinding on, we're going to use these magnet tables. When I do these signs, I like to put the pretty side down first and work on the back. Now we're going to take this handheld grinder. The only way you're able to use this or do this handheld grinder part or this portion of your project is if you've already done and gone through the training and safety stuff required for this tool. We've got our wire brush on here. That's really all we need to go through and clean this off. We're going to keep it in our hands nice and tight, and we're going to work in a uniform manner back and forth. And then once we do that, we're going to go through and individually clean these letters. All right, now that we've got the bulk of everything done, Couple pointers: be aware of these thin, smaller pieces that may not have a whole lot of material to keep them from bending when you're running over them with the wire wheel. You don't really want to bend them out of place, or I've had them knock them off, like this little part of the stem. If the wire wheel were to catch that just right, it could bend it, snap it off. So just be aware of that. Now once you've gone through and hit the majority of this, you can then look closely for any leftover pieces of dross, and it looks like we've gotten everything pretty good. Any pieces that are stuck or left behind or you can't get to come off with our wire wheel, you can take a pair of pliers and you can try to grab and pull those pieces off. We never want to turn right to a grinding disc to clean these. As a beginner, if you were to have a grinding disc on our grinders, it would remove more material away quicker than you would want on a sign like this. It would put a lot of deep gashes and grind marks on this, whereas we're trying to keep it nice and flat and uniform. Now that we've cleaned the back side, we're just going to pull up on this handle, which releases this magnet, and we're going to flip it to the pretty side. I like to give it a little push or shake down to make sure that the magnet board's actually gripping it tight enough. Now on this side, because I am going to keep it raw iron, I'm going to be very cautious of the direction I'm going so that all of my potential bristle marks or anything are all uniform, so it doesn't just stand out like a sore thumb. I'm going to be using the front edge of this wire brush and not use the whole surface, because that'll leave rings all over the place. So just a little bit of thinking or planning ahead when you're going to clean this will help keep your signs nice and clean looking. Once you've hit the bulk of it, you can then come around and address any kind of shiny spots or inconsistencies around the edges. All right, it looks pretty good. Okay, all that's left for this to be done or complete, ready to sell or give to grandma, is to find some of this twine or yarn. You can find this at Hobby Lobby or any kind of craft store, or mom or somebody may have some at home that you could use. But we're gonna feed it through these from the back side and tie knots in it. That way they can hang it wherever they choose, whether it's on their front door, in the living room, wherever. Besides, if we were to go through and paint this, that's it. That's all we need to do. We don't really need to spray any sort of clear coat or anything on this to protect this material, because chances are it's going to be in a house, and this mill scale is going to do a really good job of preventing any kind of rust. If you would like to have a shiny finish or to darken this mill scale up, you can get a clear coat at Home Depot or anywhere that sells those aerosol cans, and it does look pretty good when you do that.